bull and bear over the dam, at each other's throats. But a light from Vegas? Balls spinning on the wheel, more than two at the table, placing bets. All lose in different ways. A dam of corpses, towns of corpses, scattered across the sand. But whose? In what shares? Even the dealer doesn't know. Forecast, a rain of blood will flood the desert and not purify it.
Since the very early 20th century, there was a desire to dam off the Colorado River for a variety of purposes. In 1902, the Edison Electric Company of LA surveyed Black Canyon in hopes of building a hydroelectric dam. But due to the technological limitations of the time, this idea never came to fruition. In the following years, the US government took an interest in Black Canyon and sought to control the Colorado River's flooding and provide irrigation and hydroelectric power. During the Roaring 20s, the Boulder Canyon Project Act proposed damming off either Boulder or Black Canyon, with Black Canyon ultimately chosen for its favorable conditions. Congress approved the project in 1928, and it was signed by President Calvin Coolidge. At the height of American ingenuity and economic prosperity, this daunting task would be attempted. However, construction would not begin until 1931, during the height of the Great Depression. Boulder Canyon Dam ended up providing thousands of jobs when America needed it, and most importantly, hope. Built by 6 companies and over 21,000 men, the dam was completed in 1936, 2 years ahead of schedule. However, claiming the lives of over 100 workers. It created Lake Mead, the largest U.S. reservoir to this day, and generated hydroelectric power for the entire Southwest. The dam is so large that sections of the concrete will not finish curing for over 125 years. Originally called Boulder Dam, it was renamed Hoover Dam in 1947 after President Herbert Hoover, who oversaw its construction during a very difficult period of American history. But the Great Depression was only the beginning of the turmoil. In the Far East, Imperial Japan began an invasion of China, leading to an attack on Pearl Harbor. And in Europe, an evil the likes of which the world had never seen took its grasp over Europe. During World War II, the dam's electricity-powered defense industries, including aircraft and aluminum production. The US government became paranoid of possible sabotage by the Germans or Japanese. So much so that a pillbox was installed over Hoover Dam to ensure its defense if there was ever an attack. Sure enough, the Nazis did develop a plan to sabotage Hoover Dam, but obviously this never came to life. That war ended with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Sometime around this, our timeline diverged with that of the Fallout universe. After the war, Hoover Dam continued to support regional growth, fueling cities like Las Vegas while remaining a crucial water and energy source throughout the American Southwest. In the Fallout universe, the US clinged to the culture of the 1950s. Some events, such as the decline of the Soviet Union, the rise of communist China, climate change, and the turmoil in the Middle East, parallel our own timeline. However, as resources became more and more scarce in the 21st century, wars around the world broke out. The UN was dissolved, and the tensions between the world's two superpowers, the US and China, became increasingly hostile. And then the world changed. In 2066, China launched an invasion of Anchorage, Alaska, and Alaska quickly fell to communist China. Alaska had become a highly sought-over piece of land due to its oil reserves, a rarity in the world at this point. The US would develop power armor and begin working on a giant death robot to take back Alaska. In 2072, Canada was forcibly annexed by the United States due to Canada's reluctance to allow US troops through its borders, and America desired Canada's vast natural resources. Some Canadians tried to resist, but any resistance was quickly quelled by the US military. By 2076, the United States finally regained control of Alaska, 10 long years. During these 10 years, the US was working on a new pathogen called FEV, or Forced Evolutionary Virus, meant to increase the strength and intelligence of those it infected. The US also opened up new fronts in China, invading the Gobi Desert, Shantou, Nanking, and Shanghai. But by 2077, the war had entered a stalemate. Then, on the morning of Saturday, October 23rd, 2077, the world ended.
On the day of the Great War, 77 atomic warheads targeted Las Vegas and its surrounding areas. My networked mainframes were able to predict and force transmit disarm code subsets to 59 warheads, neutralizing them before impact. Laser cannons mounted on the roof of the Lucky 38 destroyed another 9 warheads. The rest got through, though none hit the city itself.
Because Mr. House did not get the platinum chip on time, he almost died during the defense of Las Vegas and Hoover Dam. China most definitely would have seen Hoover Dam as a major target. In fact, they even tried to sabotage it during the Sino-American War, the aftermath of which can be found to this day. While most of Las Vegas and Hoover Dam were spared the horrors of nuclear fire, the resulting nuclear fallout and neglect led to the slow degradation of the Mojave Desert. In the ruins of Los Angeles, a new group was formed called the Followers of the Apocalypse. Around the later half of the 22nd century, the Followers of the Apocalypse were a humanitarian organization aimed at helping people and gathering knowledge. The Followers of the Apocalypse knew that Hoover Dam was still intact around 2170. Also in the second half of the 22nd century, the new California Republic, or NCR, was established in Southern California. Based on ideas such as democracy, the rule of law, and old world values, the NCR quickly spread across California, even reaching as far as Oregon, Arizona, Mexico, and of course, Nevada. In the 2270s, NCR scouts reached Las Vegas and Hoover Dam, forcing Mr. House to spring into action. Mr. House had been biding his time ever since he awoke from his coma in 2138. When the NCR arrived en masse in 2274, Mr. House, House's Securitrons, and 3 rehabilitated tribes of the Mojave were waiting for the NCR. However, House's newly created army was not there to fight. Rather, it was there to negotiate. Through diplomacy, the NCR and Mr. House signed the Treaty of New Vegas, and the NCR would assume responsibility for Hoover Dam, giving 5% of the power to New Vegas, and 95% would go west to NCR territory. Meanwhile, Mr. House would retain sovereignty over the New Vegas Strip, effectively establishing New Vegas as a city-state. Also, NCR citizens would have unrestricted access to New Vegas, effectively establishing New Vegas as an economic powerhouse. For the next 3 years, things must have seemed too perfect, and that is because hell was approaching. Edward Swallow was born in the Boneyard in 2226, or the ruins of Los Angeles. He was educated as an anthropologist, a man of history. He worked for the Followers of the Apocalypse, and because of his talents, the Followers sent him east. On his way to the Grand Canyon, a young Swallow found a cache of pre-war books about a mighty empire that existed over 2,000 years ago. There, he learned about the mighty Roman legions and a great leader by the name of Julius Caesar. Edward and his companions would end up being captured by the Blackfoot, a tribe that was in a sorry state at the time. Edward, observing the Blackfoot's lack of knowledge, taught them how to clean and maintain their firearms. He taught them how to make explosives, and he taught them tactics when fighting. Soon enough, Edward was the new war chief of the Blackfoot. Edward Swallow dropped his old name and adopted a new name, Kaiser, and he and his newly formed legion quickly began attacking and conquering tribes throughout the American West. By 2255, Caesar established Flagstaff, Arizona as the capital of the legion. Arizona was conquered, and by 2274, Caesar's legion even conquered New Mexico, parts of Utah, and even the Rocky Mountains, and expanded all the way to Denver, Colorado. Wherever the legion went, they brought slavery, injustice, and murder with them. Caesar despised the NCR. Perhaps he saw them as the corrupt Roman Republic, and he, the mighty Julius Caesar, was returning from conquest in Gaul to bring about an end to the corruption. Either way, Caesar planned a conquest of the NCR. In 2277, Caesar's legion, led by Malpais Legate, attacked Hoover Dam. Initially, the NCR was pushed back to Boulder City, but due to some clever tactics by Chief Hanlon, the NCR was able to pull an ace out of their sleeve. They lured the Legion into Boulder City and detonated pre-placed explosives, destroying the army and killing anyone, Legion and NCR alike, in Boulder City. The NCR was able to re-establish control of Hoover Dam, but Caesar's Legion was only pushed back so far. They quickly made fortifications on Fortification Hill, a nearby plateau. The NCR and Legion entered a tricky stalemate, with both sides building up their forces and biding time for the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. In 2281, Mr. House finally found the long-sought-after Platinum Chip, which can provide critical upgrades to his Securitron army, along with activating Securitrons underneath Fortification Hill. These three armies are all fighting for Hoover Dam, to control the American Southwest, to win over Hoover Dam and secure electricity and water for the foreseeable future. And, in the middle of all of this, a courier might just be the one who can flip this whole thing up on its head. Many of you have followed my journey across the Mojave Wasteland, but for those of you who haven't, I've decided to side with Mr. House. And my primary reasoning for this is I think Mr. House is the best for New Vegas and for the Mojave Wasteland. Also, Mr. House has a plan for the immediate future and the far future, so I think he is the best choice. For the Battle of Hoover Dam, I decided to bring Eddie and Lily with me, because who doesn't want a flying robot and a super mutant grandmother following you? Immediately, as we start the battle, there is a massive explosion, probably artillery from the fort. We were also attacked by some great cons, but us and the NCR troopers here made quick work of them. Then the Legion tried to push down the dam, but me and the NCR and my companions were no match for them. Now, it is worth mentioning, I decided to do this fight on very hard difficulty. I've come a long way in this game, and I completed Honest Hearts on very hard difficulty, so I thought it would be a good challenge. This soldier didn't die, he just got knocked down. Then Lily came in and was just beating the shit out of him, and he still wouldn't die, so he had a very long, drawn-out, heroic death, maybe for the Legion. As you approach the halfway point, some Legion guys will come out of the checkpoint, and also you will be ambushed from behind, so you have to be very careful here. Then the bomber from the boomers, since I'm allied with the boomers, comes over, and they bomb the eastern half of the dam. Pretty frickin' epic. This legionary really did not want to die either, but finally we were able to kill him with some well-placed rounds. I really love the anti-material rifle on very hard difficulty, even at close range, because we can just shoot the shit out of everyone and blow them sky high. Then we made our way into the dam, where the ultimate betrayal happens. I opened fire on the NCR soldiers in order to make sure that I can establish Mr. House's control over Hoover Dam to power the Securitrons at Fortification Hill. Obviously a very critical step in completing Mr. House's plan. Later I found out you actually don't have to kill the two heavy troopers there. You can actually convince them to leave if you have 75 speech. However, I'm not upset with my decision, because a pretty epic three-way fight broke out down in the Hoover Dam tunnels between me, the NCR, and the Legion. It was pretty chaotic, and it was a lot of fun, so I don't really regret my decision because, well, I had fun with it, even though it is a little sad to kill the NCR. After that, we installed the override chip, and now Mr. House is in control of Hoover Dam, and he can power the Securitrons at the fort, which will obviously overwhelm the Legion, and we can use it to intimidate the NCR. And Mr. House then gives us the terms of surrender that we can hand to General Oliver later. After that, we will exit to the eastern side of the dam, where we can find some explosive marks, along with the Enclave remnants, who I've completed the quest for, and they will now aid us in the Battle of Hoover Dam. Now, a fun fact is Cannibal Johnson will actually follow you throughout the rest of this fight, all the way up to Legate Lanius, so pretty freaking cool. And also there were some Securitrons up here blowing up these legionaries, and they were very easy to kill thanks to the Securitrons. So you know, just mowing them down with my machine gun, pretty easy, pretty fast work. There was one legionary left, and he tried to run away, but his dog met a terrible fate, and then he met his dog soon in the afterlife. After that, I looked back and I noticed you can get some really beautiful views of Hoover Dam, the setting sun, and New Vegas way off in the distance from this angle. So I'd highly recommend taking in a moment to enjoy the views. Your actions up to this point have brought you to this very moment in time, an assault on the Legion camp. Now, because this was on very hard, I expected this to be somewhat difficult, so since I had a stockpile of large mini nukes, I just came in, blowing up everything. And this was actually a pretty darn good tactic, besides getting radiation poisoning from, well, obviously the nukes. It was actually extremely effective in clearing out the Legion. And here we are. After a pretty easy approach, we have finally arrived at the final battle between us and Legate Linnaeus. Linnaeus is obviously a very tough battle, and I do have 100 speech and 100 barter, so in theory I could end this without any violence. But that's kind of boring, it's not good cinema, so I decided to go ahead and fight Legate Linnaeus, and this fight was pretty freaking hard on very hard difficulty. It was actually much more difficult than I was anticipating. This guy has so much freaking health that is actually insane. Now, I don't know what happened to Eddie at this point. He kind of just disappeared, so I guess I should have brought Rex, whatever. But Lily and Cannibal Johnson were the real MVPs here, helping me fight Legate Linnaeus and also helping me fight the waves of legionaries that spawned during this battle. As you can see me, I'm just unloading my minigun into his head, and he just doesn't freaking care. And then something really weird happened. He looked like he was trying to surrender. I approached him, he ran away, and then he started chucking grenades at me. I don't know what that cute little hand motion he was doing with his hands, but it was kind of cute. And then he decided to throw grenades, and then the grenades blew up, and just chaos. And finally, I was able to kill him, but a really weird interaction there towards the end. Again, he just had so much freaking health, and he was trying to fake surrender. What a little bitch. And then he was dead. There were still a lot of Legion soldiers coming in, and when I turned to find out what was going on, I would see that Cannibal Johnson would meet his end. Unfortunately, Cannibal Johnson did not survive. As I tried to exit, I got attacked by more legionaries, which I never remember happening. A couple of them tried to run away after getting hit by one bullet, but I said no survivors, so I took out all of the stragglers. And then we have the final interaction with the NCR. And just like with Legate Linnaeus, we have two options here. We can either A, end this peacefully through speech and negotiation, or we can choose to attack General Oliver and the NCR Rangers, of course, with the help of a massive Securitron army. So it's really not much of a fair fight. Because I do have a soft spot in my heart for the NCR, I wanted to end this peacefully. And after a lot of negotiation, after a lot of back and forth, we can finally convince General Oliver to stand down peacefully. And this is a welcome sight. We do not want to kill these innocent Rangers, and of course this will send the NCR packing out of the Mojave and back to California, leaving a secure and independent New Vegas under the control of Mr. House. And Mr. House wants to have one last word with us.
I've had thousands of employees in my time. Few met my expectations. Fewer still surpassed them. Your performance has been nothing short of spectacular. If I have need for a specialist of your stripe again, I'll know just where to turn. Back to Vegas, shall we? I really should do something about that monorail with all the new resources at hand. I can make sure it not only runs, but runs on time. Always bothered me, the imprecision. No need to worry about the General, by the way. He'll be held responsible, publicly disgraced. 36.5% probability of suicide, by my estimate. Kimball won't be able to save him. He'll be too busy getting thrown out of office. But less than a 3% chance of suicide, mind you. Vegas might see a dip in revenue for a few months, half a year. But soon enough, the tourists and their money will be pouring in. Vegas will be a shining jewel in the middle of the desert, an oasis of light, a beacon to show mankind the way to the stars. This is just the start, you see. This is where it all begins.
And in that final dialogue, we can kind of see the true narcissism of Mr. House. Despite that, I do believe Mr. House is the best choice for New Vegas. I think he's the best choice to secure it, for freedom, and for the prosperity of the people within the Mojave Wasteland. But of course, this video is not yet over, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Unexplored Mojave. And of course, we want to check out the surrounding area, see what interesting things there are, what interesting loot, and of course, what secrets lie within the dam. So without further ado, let's check out Hoover Dam. The first time you approach Hoover Dam in Fallout New Vegas, you'll notice that there is a large statue right outside the visitor center. And this statue is very much real. You can see it in real life. It was designed and created by Oscar Hansen, and it is called the Winged Figures of the Republic. There is a 14-story flagpole, and at the base is a star map that aligns to the placement of the Nevada skies on September 30th, 1935, which is the day that the dam was dedicated by Franklin Roosevelt. It's also worth mentioning that there's a memorial designed by the same man called the Dam Builders Memorial, which is a tribute to the 96 people who died directly because of the dam's construction. However, many other people died from heat exhaustion or pneumonia or other disease that are not commemorated on the memorial. And of course, we can go to the towers and we can get a very good vantage point of the dam. Of course, this tower is very important for President Kimball's speech, as one of the assassins will try to go up here in order to snipe Kimball from afar. Of course, you can either be that sniper yourself, or you can be the one to save President Kimball. And then as we go into the visitor center, we can actually descend way into the depths of the dam. Normally there will be the Hoover Dam snow globe there, but I've already picked it up. But if you want some extra caps and you are not against Mr. House, you can definitely acquire it. Now, as we go downstairs, there are so many paths and it is quite confusing. And I made a new discovery, or at least a new discovery for myself. If you follow the path I am on, there's actually an underneath part to the dam, or there is a lower level. I was quite shocked to find this out. But if you go to the base of the first reactor room, there is a door which takes us down to the lower power level. I had no idea that the lower level of Hoover Dam existed in the game, obviously. In real life, I knew there was some kind of generator room like this. In here, we can see the water rushing through the dam. It'll actually knock us over if we tried to approach it. And we can see the bottoms of the generators, well, generating electricity. So pretty freaking cool, and this section is freaking huge. I was shocked. There's employee break rooms. There's so many generators that are spinning. Unfortunately, the spinning doesn't do anything to us. It's literally just for show. But there's just so much, and I figured there has to be cut content down here. It appears some of the generators are not working. Perhaps we were going to fix them or see something. I don't know. And then I was really surprised to find some NCR troopers at the very end of that area. I didn't see any other troopers down there besides those two. Kind of a lonely job, but interesting. Then on the main level of Hoover Dam with all of the big generators, I've actually been in this area of the dam. Really cool. Now downstairs we can find various ammunition crates and the like, but it's all considered stealing because, well, it does belong to the NCR. Now I wanted to mention that this is the scene of the final battle. If you side with Caesar's Legion, you have to fight through waves of NCR troops in the depths of Hoover Dam. I wish the other sides also had more fighting inside of Hoover Dam. I just think it's a really fun battlefield. Now, if we head back to the entrance and we go to the Hoover Dam offices, there's two things of note. If you're friendly with the NCR, go to your left, head down the stairs, and we can find Quartermaster Bardon. This might be the best ammunition supplier in the entire game. I just bought all of his ammunition to see how much it would cost me. He has almost 300,000 caps worth of ammunition. And also in the same area, we can find some barracks, obviously for NCR soldiers. Pretty cool and kind of just an area most players would never think to explore. Heading back to the beginning of the offices, if we go straight and just follow the corridor straight, we can find a very interesting thing that I actually mentioned in the opening of this video. I mentioned that Chinese soldiers tried to sabotage Hoover Dam. If we head to the back of the offices, we can find this room with radiation symbols inside our radioactive barrels, as you can see. And in the back, there are some crates. If we go through these crates, we can find Chinese stealth armor. In fact, 2 sets of it. This is likely from a reference in Fallout Van Buren, which was going to be the original Fallout 3. Now, this might be based on Fallout Van Buren, the original Fallout 3, which had design documents about Chinese infiltrators who were trying to sabotage Hoover Dam. Also, in Bethesda's Fallout 3, there is some cut content about a sabotage attempt at Hoover Dam by the Chinese. So we have a pretty cool reference to one of those or both of those. And this is the only way to get the Chinese stealth armor in Fallout New Vegas. And now it's time for some Dr. Bosch vibes. If you want to get to the bottom of the dam really quickly, you can actually climb on top of the artillery by just repeatedly jumping, as you saw me do. We can then jump off and commit suicide, or you can save right before you hit the ground, and when you reload, your gravity will be reset, and you'll just land nice and soft. And now you can kind of explore the upper parts of the Hoover Dam. Normally this section is off limits, and we cannot get up here. Now, if you want to leave, you can either fast travel or you can just fall down and then use the door. Of course, there is a door in Hoover Dam, which will take you to this area. You can see it right there. But we're going to talk about this door later because there's something interesting about it. But you can go ahead and swim around at the base of the dam. Now, I don't know much about the physics or how a dam really works. I mean, I know it makes electricity with the flow of water, but I imagine in real life you might not be able to swim in this area safely. At least that's what goes through my mind. But if we come over to the dam, we can actually see a little bit of a design flaw, perhaps. There appears to be a hole in the dam. Perhaps Hoover Dam in Fallout New Vegas is approaching the end of its time. Doubtful. Now, if we go to the other side, we find that there's really pretty much nothing over here. There's just kind of empty things and some shutters that are closed, and we cannot interact with these shutters at all. However, if you've ever completed a Fallout New Vegas run with Caesar's Legion, you might be thinking to yourself right now, hey, something's missing. This looks way less detailed than I remember, and that is because you are right. Now, if you just approach the dam from the wasteland, there's far less detail. But if you go to the dam the way you're supposed to, there is a lot more detail at the base. We can see a lot of electrical equipment, and even the floor has a lot more detail. We can see like water rushing out from underneath us. And if we go over here, we can even see some piping and stuff like that. And of course, there's several of these like electrical generator things that were previously absent. Now, I imagine the reason that these are absent if you just approach from the overworld is just to make the game run smoother, and God knows Fallout New Vegas needs that. But pretty interesting that it only spawns if you come the proper way, and it's just not there naturally. Now, really quick, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Black Sheep Indefinitely 2264, who left a comment 7 months ago about making this video. He was a big influence for the beginning of this video, trying to make an epic video that would be true to the Fallout series. Also, I want to give a shout out to Will Run for Fun for mentioning about Boulder Dam, and STRV81, who also recommended Hoover Dam. And I also want to give a shout out to Wesley Gossett, who recommended me a glitch about how to exit the dam at Hoover Dam. I will link that video in the description if you want to see the original. So without further ado, here is how we can reach Legate's camp early. Of course, Fallout New Vegas has a variety of map exit glitches, but the one at Hoover Dam is pretty easy, especially if you're using a controller. Go to the middle section of the dam where we have this halfway point, and you can easily jump up on this roof. To get up here, just jump off the sandbags, hold forward and a little bit left on the controller, and you can get up on this roof. After that, you want to go into third person, crouch, and then just kind of walk along this small ledge. When you reach this next part, I recommend first person, and keep trying to jump up. Now, in Wesley's video, he did it just kind of side jumping. I found it's better to go at this jump with some momentum. You can kind of get on this little ledge, keep jumping, and now you're out of the map. Congratulations. Normally, the eastern part of the dam is only explorable and only really visible during the Battle of Hoover Dam. However, obviously, this is not the battle, and we can now explore it. Now, these intake towers are pretty boring. There's not a whole lot going on inside of them, but you can go ahead and check them out if you want. Now, while you are on this part of Hoover Dam, you will hear explosions and stuff like that, like the battle is happening, but of course it's not happening yet. In the destroyed tower, we cannot go inside, which is too bad. Now, in order to reach Legate's camp, you have to be careful of invisible barriers and sometimes random loading screens. So definitely make sure to save and then just kind of follow my path. As you approach the end of the path, there's an invisible barrier, but if you kind of go to the right towards the cliffside, you can easily get around the invisible barrier like you just see me doing right now. It might take a little bit of work, but just keep going right, don't fall off, and eventually you'll be home free. After this, I recommend just going as far as you can and getting to high ground. Eventually, there's a very tall mountain that you can climb up, as you can see me doing now, and up here you can get a very good view of Legate's camp. And even using the anti-materia rifle, we can start killing the Legion from afar, and they're just in full panic, they don't know what to do. Now, if you try to approach Legate's camp, you'll notice there's a huge invisible barrier around it. So we need to find a way around it, and there is one way that I know of. Come around this mountain, and there's going to be a little slope up on your right here. Go on up, and then walk to the very end of this rock or this cliff. And when you approach this part, you will now discover Legate's camp. And once you discover the camp, you can fast travel to it, as you will see me do here. And when you fast travel to it, though, funny enough, the color or the time of day kind of changes regardless of what it was before. Obviously, this is the color of the final battle of Hoover Dam, kind of because of the sunset and probably because of all the fires that are burning from the battle. Now, if we head on back, we can actually enter the Hoover Dam checkpoint. Normally, this is inaccessible until the Battle of Hoover Dam, but you can come on in here and check it out and explore around, but there's really nothing of note inside. Unfortunately, we cannot go to the little sniper's nest on top. And if you exit and try to re-enter, well, you're going to be SOL. There is no way back besides doing the glitch all over again. Alright everyone, there you have it. Hoover Dam. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is probably the most difficult video I've made to date, but I had a lot of fun making the video, and for me that's what is most important, having fun making these videos. The beginning of this video was more geared to the Fallout lore and the Fallout story. I hope you guys enjoyed that narrative, while the latter half was more akin to my normal Unexplored Mojave video. Now, I would like to do more videos focusing on the lore of Fallout, and perhaps we will start to take that path more as the Unexplored Mojave begins to wind down. But of course, there's still a few locations left in the Mojave Wasteland, and of course, we still have Old World Blues. Real quick, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who watches these videos. You guys are awesome. When I started making these videos 8-9 months ago, I never imagined this kind of support and this kind of success. You guys are so freaking awesome, and thank you to every one of you who has supported this channel. I hope that we will have many good years ahead of us and a fun future of Fallout, Bethesda, and other video games. If you guys have any recommendations for future videos, future ideas, please post them in the comments section below. I always try to read your guys' comments, each and every one. I try to reply to each and every one. I really like interacting with you guys. You guys are so freaking awesome. And, as always, until next time.